How we doing, everyone? How we doing? Should be live here. If you're here, let me know if you can hear me and see me. I'm quite paranoid about one day this microphone just not working. So let me know in the chat if you are here. Let me know where you're from, all that jazz, all that good stuff. We're here every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So if you are here, if you're new here, welcome. If you're recurring, if you've seen my face on this live stream before, thank you so much for coming back. I greatly appreciate it. As you can tell by the title and thumbnail of this one, and I'll let you in here on the inside baseball. It's difficult to come up with a topic every single time for these things. I mean, a lot is happening, but I do feel like sometimes they get a little repetitive. But I think we're always learning. And if you guys ever have any ideas and stuff you want me to talk about, cover, or whatever, definitely just let me know. Charlie, thank you so much. Appreciate that confirmation there on the AV side of things. But yeah, I do have, if you're new here, the cadence is obviously every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. But I've also kind of started to go and do a little bit of kind of a weekly recap just from my perspective on like WordPress and things going on, the stuff that I'm doing, the stuff that other people are doing that I find interesting. And then we talk about maybe a couple different topics here or there, like bigger pieces. So there's a lot of really good people in this space. There's a lot of really good content out there. I would highly, highly recommend that if you're not following a vast majority and like a wide distribution of people in this space, I do think that it would be very productive to do so, because I follow people that I don't like necessarily watch every single video of because, there's just only so much time in the day. But it is really good to get different perspectives regardless of what tools you're using or what you're doing, because we all have a lot of similarities and everything like that. So, Eric, hello from Alabama. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. Basam from Canada. Good to see you, brother. Thank you so much for being here. But yeah, like I said, I have a little bit of a agenda here. We'll talk about the stuff. If you guys have anything, drop it in the chat. We'll talk about it as well. And pleasure to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. But yeah, so here's what I would say for this past week. It's been a little, I would say it was like, by my estimation, a little like relatively quiet, I would say, based off of the other weeks that we've had recently. There's been a lot of stuff going on, and occasionally I feel like we get these little dips, and there's still obviously great content coming out, but nothing crazy. I was talking to Matt Medeiros at WP Minute yesterday, and he's like, "You've been a little quiet, man. There's not as much drama." So that's been like kind of a twofold thing. I feel like this week wasn't anything like extremely crazy that happened. We do have some things to talk about, but that, and then also I've been thinking, I was launching a client site. We can kind of talk about that today a little bit, and just a lot of other things that I was doing kind of like off the grid, so to speak, off the out of the scene here, that may or may not interest you guys. But like I said, we'll chat about all of that. And yeah, we've got a question here already. Thank you, Eric. Simple WordPress sites are easy, but how is building a data-driven site like a news website, especially one that has multiple reverse relationships? So thank you for that great question right off the bat there. So I don't know if I can answer that like specifically, because it's a good point right there, right? But like that is kind of very similar to like what made me think of this whole, the title, so to speak, of this video, which is like, is WordPress easy? And like, what does that actually mean? I tweeted about it. We'll go over it. There's a lot there. So I'm gonna star this. I'm gonna come back to it because it's gonna be the main topic that we're gonna be talking about here a lot. And then if we have specifics, we can dive into that as well at some point. John from Greece, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. Eric, like your video about making the portfolio website was a great idea. How to deal with objects and post types that are relationships to each other. Yeah, I'll drop this here because like I said, I have like a list of random stuff we can kind of go over briefly, but I don't know if you guys have seen this yet. I think I'm dubbing this this series that I did the WP. If you go to wpdynamicdata.co, and I'll bring it up on the screen here as well. I am dubbing this series the most underrated dynamic data series on the internet. WordPress dynamic. I mean, it's new. It's 2 months ago or whatever. But my point is, like, I love dynamic data. I love what it like did for me as a website builder, And I just think if you go through this, you're going to be way further than you are. And then go out and watch other people's content. I'm not saying don't watch other people's. This isn't the end all be all, but this is like how I would have loved to learn this. And I had to like piece it together. So there you go. It's free. Go check it out if you don't know about that. All right. So that's the first thing. I'll check that off my list here. Talked about the quiet week. Another random thing that I was doing this week too is there's been like some Google debates and always been, but like Google like having control and like using like being bought into Google. I'm gonna confess that I am like pretty much fully bought into Google. I'm using Chrome. I'm using Gmail. I'm using Google Workspace, Google Voice. I don't really have too many problems with it. I know Google is kind of a shitty company in certain ways, the way that they do things, just because they're so big. But I haven't had enough reason to like switch. And then I'm a big concision, like concise and cohesion guy. So you may be wondering why don't I use Apple, which is a separate conversation. But like if you go all Google or all Apple, you're at least going to get that cohesion. I've seen a lot of people like be switching from those and like putting together like 16 different like apps now that they have to like somehow either just manage independently or whatever. That's just not somewhere where I'm at right now. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because there is annoyances with that. I was trying to move my wife's account from like her like maiden name like Gmail to like a married name Gmail as an account, just like one account to the other. It's just such a pain in the ass. Like there's no good way. Like they haven't thought of those types of situations. Migrating the data is difficult. It's pretty much impossible in certain instances. So I just wish that, like to tie that into like a WordPress thing, like data liberation. I love that concept where you kind of can flow freely. I mean, I wasn't even trying to go to a different, platform in that case, right? I'm trying to, compare these two different things here, but that's just a whole nother conversation that we can have maybe sometime. But just another random thing that I was doing because I was literally trying to do like Drive, Gmail, passwords, YouTube data, YouTube music data, and like so much of it was like, oh, photos, like it's a nightmare. Like there's just so much data. And even when you're trying to go just from one account in Google to another account, there are ways to do a Google takeout and all that sort of stuff, but a lot of it still is kind of like manual and just annoying. So I don't know. Just if you're in that market, I mean, I'm happy to chat about it at some point. But if you're in that stage where you're trying to do something like that, just know that you're gonna be in for some work, to say the least. So there's that. There's just a random aside there. We got from Ann here. I would love to rephrase your topic to is building professional websites easy? Yeah, 100%. So yeah, we'll dive into that. That's another good point there because there is a distinction there, and I think a lot of times like we kind of forget that, and I want to make sure that we try to preface the conversations that we're having appropriately. So I do think that there's a good bit of nuance there. Jackson, appreciate you being here. Chow as well. Thank you so much. What do we got here? We're talking about the Google debate. Let me slide back over to our screen here for a second. Just a couple quick announcements that we're diving into more to the topics here. I was on the Tonic last week. Great gang as always. First time chatting with some of these guys, specifically Jason over from WP Engine. Extremely smart guy. Hope to learn more from him and a lot of other people moving forward in this space. But this was a good chat. I felt like this was like very insightful in a lot of ways. If you haven't caught it, I dropped the link in the chat there. But a lot of different topics that we're kind of talking about at the beginning, talking a lot about like kind of the things that I'm gonna speak to a little bit here in this stream. Just kind of like WordPress, and it's just again, every week is not as eventful as others, but there's always things that we're talking about because we're always trying to move this type of thing forward, I guess, and just kind of give our perspectives and our opinions on everything. So that's pretty. There's nothing new there. It's just we're always just talking about it, I feel like, so, which I think is good. And then I'm excited for this later with Kevin Geary on the Tonic here in about like an hour or so. So that'll be kind of interesting to see because again, I love everyone's perspective. It's awesome. So we're gonna check those off there, and then a couple other random things. Brendan O'Connell. If you're not following him already on YouTube, you should definitely do that. He sent me over this thing, and this is just a super high-level thing. If you guys want to see more of this, I'll talk about this maybe a little bit later as well. I've been struggling kind of personally with my... I'll drop this link in here, and then I'll kind of talk about what I'm talking about. I've been struggling personally with trying to find, like, my area, we'll say, like, my specialty in, like, kind of the WordPress landscape. from an agency side, but more so from like a content creator side and like kind of just what I want to do. Cause I'm like I'm in that phase of like, just seeing, trying to understand everything, right? So I've realized that I'm definitely not a designer. I've realized that I'm definitely not really like a developer, so to speak. I kind of have that mind a little bit more I definitely have more of a developer mind than a designer mind, but I'm not really in that realm. So where this really breaks down and where you guys kind of like really come into the picture here is like I want to make sure that I'm continuing to provide value. I know one thing I really like to talk about these weird like psychological, philosophical, like big topics, like these macro things. So I'm not going to stop doing that. I love that. I hope you guys have appreciated that to some degree, but I also want to make sure that I'm still providing like tangible value as well if I can. So I think one of the ways that I'm going to experiment with that further is things closer to like more the dynamic data type of like situation. And the way this all revolves back to and relates back to what I just posted there, that little APIs thing is like Brendan O'Connell shot me that over there the other day because I think we should do some more content around that because I think there is a gap there where people, and this is all gonna play in. There's a lot of preamble to what we're gonna talk about with the WordPress stuff, like being easy. Is like there is a lot that you can do with this platform, regardless of what you think about each individual piece of it. There's a lot you can do with a lot that I've done with a lot of like Brendan and other people have done with it. It's amazing, but you have to know that it's possible. You have to understand that it's possible, and then you have to go figure out how to do it. So this API thing is something that I hear a lot about. The WordPress API, integrating other APIs, whatever. And I want to dive more into the things that are more dynamic because I am terrible at making things look pretty, but I'm pretty good at making things dynamic and making things cool in that way. So I want to dive into that more. I want to talk more about that. I want to explore that. Look forward to more content like that. If you have any ideas there or anything you're struggling with, let me know. We'll do our best to make that happen with some examples, some different live streams, videos, whatever. But it's something I'm thinking about. So I'm looking into this API situation because I want to see. I would love to do stuff with the YouTube API. I think that might be a little intermediate rather than beginner-ish. But we'll start somewhere and we'll play around with that. So just wanted to throw that out there because that's something we're thinking about. And if you guys have any thoughts, let me know. Eric, good to see you, brother. Thank you so much. And yeah, definitely let me know about the dynamic playlist if it helps at all. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. And content around dynamic data would be great. It's astonishing how few people know how simple it is once you figure it out. Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's a lot of power there, regardless of what you're using. Obviously, again, with the dynamic data series, it's like custom post types, custom fields, relationships. So that's like, I would say more like level one-ish. And then I feel like getting into APIs and things like that is probably like the next step up because there are some tools that make it easier, but you have to like understand. You have to understand a little bit more. Maybe you have to get closer to code in certain aspects. It just, it's a little more daunting up front, I feel like, at least for me. So that's why I want to jump into that because I think we have a lot of opportunity there. Breaking it down for people will open up worlds, 100%. Am I a developer? I would say the easy answer to that question is no. I know HTML, I know CSS, I know a little bit of JavaScript. I did code in Java when I was in college. But do I write code every day? No. Can I read code? Depending on what it is, yeah. But I would not classify myself as a developer. Design code web, I would not. So yeah. But yeah, Brendan, appreciate you being here, brother. Yes, sir. Thank you for adding the hashtag Q on there. Design code web. Appreciate that. Yeah, definitely a good practice there. Sweet. So yeah. Okay. Another thing, Anne's gonna love this here is I actually had a chat with Thomas Koschwitz of Grade, co-founder, I believe, right? Is his title. And fantastic convo. That was on Friday. And we talked a little bit about Grade because we did the speed build challenge together. And I had never really, I'd seen Grade a little bit, talked to Ann, everything like that, obviously, about it. We had the Bridge Builders episodes recently. You guys go see that on Maddie Eastwood's channel. But Grade is, we're not going to, I'll do a separate thing, or maybe we'll do something together or whatever, like a live stream with Thomas and like whatever we want to do here, like a more deeper dive on Grade. But I'm going to give you my top level opinion on this right now based on what I saw. And actually I have a dev environment now set up with Grade, just like kind of on the dev server, just to kind of play around with this. But I'm going to give you the high level, okay? Based on the few hours of experience that I have with the platform, talking to people that use it, talking to the members of the team, things like that, because I really like to give you some thoughts. So if we look at grade here for a second, well, actually, let me explain what this is. Grade is, I hope I explain it decently. This is my interpretation. Grade is like, I'm going to liken grade. I think it's important to use kind of a comparison, and then you can dive into like what the specifics. Grade is not like, it's more like GeneratePress than it is like bricks, so to speak. Okay. Grade is a theme and a plugin and a litany of other things. Okay. I'm definitely simplifying here, but it extends the block editor. It utilizes the block editor, extends like the Gutenberg and like that type of thing. Okay. Now, regardless of what your feelings are on that, okay? Regardless of what your feelings on like the core of WPR, I promise you that if you go download Grade for free and you play with it, you will be blown away by like what it is. I'm not saying just switch from whatever the hell you're using. That's not what I'm saying, okay? I'm saying if you are the type of person that's heard a lot about like WP Core and the Gutenberg project, and you watch different things and you're like, wow, this is hard to do and all that sort of stuff, and it's limiting. If like the word limiting at all comes into your vocabulary, you have to at least like download Grade for free and watch it. I'm not getting paid to say any of this shit, okay? I will let you know moving forward if I get paid to say any of this stuff, but it's always gonna be my opinions. Like I just talked to Thomas, I've talked to Ann, I've seen it in action, and I'm thinking, this is all of the stuff that I hear people talk about when they say like, hey, what would you change about WordPress? What would you put in there? And people are like, oh, I want ACF Pro functionality baked in. I want like a really good form builder. I want whatever. I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just saying like Grade is one of the ones that I've actually used, and maybe the other ones do have it as well. I haven't dove into GeneratePress at all either, but Grade is like, it opened my eyes when I actually saw it a little deeper. Thomas gave me the demo. I've played around with it for a few minutes. I watched Ann use it. There's just a lot of potential there, and there's a lot of different things that are going on. Not to even mention the idea of the ecosystem, so to speak, and the like functionality that it gives you as an agency. Okay. And I don't use Grade yet. Like I said, I'm in the very infancy. So these opinions may change. Like we may see it, whatever. But like my point is that I'm just trying to bring a little bit of awareness to it, because I do think that like for some people, this would be something that they would absolutely be like, wow, that is really interesting. You'd have to do your own research. You have to dive in more. You have to see if it works for you. I'm just telling you that like, to me, as putting my agency hat on and thinking about it, I'm like, this is really interesting because it's closer to core. It extends a lot of things. It gives a lot more functionality in a lot of certain ways. And it also it's built for like somebody that wants to be a professional like agency, web developer, web designer, web admin, and have all these different sites kind of like either connected via multi-site or connected via, a different way. And there's just a lot there. Okay. There's a lot of conversation. Last thing I'll say about it is that this page right here, the Grade pricing page, is the thing that always comes up from the conversations that I've seen with Grade, and I even brought it up to Thomas. And there's a huge conversation to be had about this concept here, but this is startling to some people. And the reason I think it's startling is because traditionally, if you look at everything is extremely underpriced for the value that we can create, for the amount of money that the tools are. That's a big nuanced conversation. Again, we're just scratching the surface of all this. Maybe we can talk more about this and other more specifics in future streams and videos. But I'm just saying, like, you can download the thing for free, you can see everything. But then if you want to jump into it, you can see like $69 per month for up to 12 sites, 24 or 249 per month for 36 sites, and then the big one, is like $450 a month for unlimited sites. I need to say this as well. I truly appreciate this type of model and like the actual pricing things to like more of a sustainable level, because if you are charging $450 a month for unlimited websites, like, that this money is going to actually help them sustain the product, make it better, and things like that. obviously we're using grade as the example here, but I would be happy to pay more money if it meant that, you know, this, if I knew that the tool that I was using was going to be more sustainable, like the actual business behind it was more sustainable. So I do think that we're seeing that. I've seen people talk about like inflation and stuff like that in the WordPress realm. I personally don't even think we're at inflation level. Like, I don't think this is inflation. I think this is like proper business practice, like that type of model there. We can all have a whole discussion about that. Like I said, if you have thoughts, let me know. But if you think about and you run those numbers, if you are pricing your stuff accordingly, then those tools become, they're still insignificant, the numbers. So this is definitely different than a lot of other things that you may have seen, but it's something to consider. It's something to think about, because I do think that as more companies start to realize that they need to sustain their businesses and their development teams and all that sort of stuff, and we're using these tools to make money, you're going to see more of that. So just a like I said, high level overview of what I've seen so far with Grade, what I've experienced, kind of the pricing model and things like that. I'm looking forward to making more content, talking to more people about it, seeing more demos and seeing how people utilize everything. But I will leave it with Grade is very interesting to me. That's the high level there. Rob Cooper, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. I've been doing this for so long that I remember when everyone switched to subscriptions rather than one single price. I think it was Pippin Sport. Yeah, I mean, so that's a good point there too. I've thought about this a lot because some people are like really like anti-subscription, and I don't disagree with that entirely. However, I wonder, because again, I'm at the point now where like I just know that most things are gonna be a subscription, right? But I wonder, I literally wonder about this. And don't get me wrong, I definitely love a good LTD, okay? But at the same time, like, I would probably never offer an LTD if I had a product, because unless it's like a super like once in a while type thing, because that literally makes no business sense, like sustainability wise. You have to support somebody that bought the thing for like, you know, $200 or something for the lifetime of all like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe somebody, I just smacked my microphone. Maybe somebody can tell me differently, but the subscription model makes sense to me from the sense of sustainability for the business and actually giving a shit about your product, because then you have to pay the people. Like, this stuff isn't free. The support isn't free. The further development of the product isn't free. And I feel like as we're all business people, like, we should kind of understand those concepts. My question would be like super simplified just on this topic here real quick, is like back when like Windows or whatever, just as whatever the fuck, an example of something that used to be one price and now is a subscription. When you were back then and you paid, like, let's just make up a scenario, $100 for Windows. Maybe that's like a yearly thing, so it's not a great idea. But like something that was subscription wise, but you pay one time. Like, was the concept that they were never going to fix any stuff? Like, they didn't have to pay anybody to improve that? Maybe that's a bad example. I'm just saying, like, if I only paid like one time for Netflix, why do I think that they would give me more for, like, what would that price even be? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's a different discussion. We can come up with some examples and we can chat about that at some point, but that's just my high level on that. WP Minute, Matt Medeiros. Go subscribe to WP Minute. It's easy if you're an agency owner and you want to leverage the entire grade stack plus process. $6K a year to serve your entire client base is an easy trade. 100%. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's for everyone. I'm not saying it's even necessarily for me right now. I'm just saying it's interesting. It's interesting for multiple different reasons. But you have to think, and this goes back to kind of what Ann said earlier, because everything starts to mold together as far as like professional agency, building more things, being more of a presence in the space, whatever. Like, you have to want to build a lot of websites, or like you have to be profitable, value and profit, like Matt Medeiros always tells me, right? So you have to like want that. You have to plan for that. You have to strategize for that. And if this is something that you bought into, right, then the 6,000 a year, whatever the number comes out to, like, that would make sense. Like, hypothetically, if you were using and leveraging this and you made one website for $10,000, you're profitable. I'm oversimplifying again, but my point is that, like, you have to be of the mind that you're going to build websites that are going to be profitable based off of the tools that you're using and the prices that you're paying for the tools that you're using. So, I don't know. I would love to dive more into that if you guys want to see more content. I don't know how many like actual agency. I'm lost on the demographics at this point. Like I don't know who in this community, but in general, like there's agency owners, there's product owners, there's people that just mess around with WordPress. There's people that are developers in WordPress. There's a whole hodgepodge here. It depends on what we want to talk about. But I love talking about the process side of things because that's just kind of how my mind, kind of works, I feel like. A couple of videos. I think I did a live stream before on like agency process and stuff like that. It's on the channel. You can search for it. But I'd love to talk more about that stuff if it makes sense for people. Just whatever you guys kind of feel like at some point too. There are some plugins I bought once and it just keeps working. One old plugin became a security risk. I had an AI update it and it's fine. Yeah, I mean that's this is that's the beauty of a lot of the things that we kind of have. I guess. I mean there's those options to. I don't know if you want to call it like an open source benefit to a degree, like kind of with something a little bit like that. But like, yeah, I mean, if stuff works necessarily that, there's an argument there to not fix it as well. But yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of things there. I'm glad that AI was able to help. That's helpful. Charlie, 2-point LTs work as generally a lot of people buy them, but then never use the product. Also, it helps you bootstrap product. No, for sure. I think that's definitely a really good strategy to consider there. I've seen that many times where like a product comes out and they offer an LTD for like a limited time. I just think that if you sold it to everyone, then it might be a little rough because how are you going to continue to have like a sustainable income with those types of things? So I think that's definitely a strategy to consider. And maybe one day if I ever get to the product level, I will consider that as well. All right, so let's dive into a couple of these other things here. Obviously, we've scratched the surface a little bit. Let me quickly go over to my screen here, see if there's anything crazy that that I missed just from this past week. I mean, again, a lot of good content here. And I should drop my like subscription list somewhere at some point so you guys can all subscribe to everyone. But a lot of good things from Jamie, Jackson, obviously Matt over WP Minute. I'm trying to think if there's anything crazy that stood out to me. Again, like I said, just kind of a chill week, which is nice for a change, right? Can we all agree? I was getting a little tired. All right, so let's jump over here. All right, so a couple things that I want to kind of talk about, and then we're gonna go through my Twitter feed here. If you're not following me on Twitter, definitely go. Or why do I keep calling it Twitter? It's called X now. If you go over there and follow me, I'd appreciate it. But there's some interesting things that I talked about. And real quick, I want to kind of mention that there is this concept. It's not really a concept, it's just something that happens. Like sometimes like you'll tweet something, okay? And you will get picked up by the algorithm, like the For You section, and you'll get like way more like views on the thing than you actually have followers. That happened to me this week. We'll talk about that. And again, it all runs in line with like, is WP like easy and everything like that. The first thing I want to talk about, actually, we'll just jump into it here, and we'll kind of talk about that type of thing. First, we'll read this from Peter here. Subscriptions are good. One issue I run into is features that I want, but are only available in more expensive subscriptions options that also add a lot of site licenses. Yeah, I'm not like super keen on that either. That is definitely a critique that I have of certain subscription models, the way that they lay them out and everything. That's kind of annoying because, yeah, there's definitely examples of that where like you're paying a ton and you're not getting, you're not utilizing all the licenses, but you needed the features. So I definitely understand that in certain cases. Don't know if there's a way around that. I don't know if you can just, I don't know a better way, but, yeah, I'm not a super big fan of that, but I kind of understand it, but yeah, I'm not a super fan. So something to consider for sure there. All right. So let's talk about these couple big things here. Like I said, I launched a client website this week, and we'll go in reverse chronological here real quick here. So I launched this client website, and the high level is that I ended up tweeting this, and that was kind of funny. But I should actually probably like talk maybe a little bit more to Courtney over at GoDaddy or GoDaddy directly or whatever. But I want to talk about this for a moment because I think there's a bigger conversation to be had here. So I tweeted, it's actually kind of amazing how awful every experience I've had with GoDaddy has been. Now, it's a little, it's a little, it's a little much. No, it's not that bad, but GoDaddy's a big company, but little snarky. I'll give you that. But here's my thing. I launch a website. That website doesn't have anything to do with GoDaddy, like the actual main domain. It's actually Network Solutions, which is also kind of shitty. Uh, but then I launch that website and that's fine. And then I go over to GoDaddy because there's like a separate situation, like a domain that needs to redirect. All I'm trying to do is redirect a domain that has a website built with like website builder on GoDaddy over to this new website, basically just a new domain, a specific page on the thing. I will take blame. I'm happy to be proven wrong or take blame on any of this. But but it's kind of like a joke at this point, right? I feel like a running joke how like bad like pieces of GoDaddy are, whatever. Like so much that like I hear it a lot, okay? So I'm in the observation thing. I'm not trying to shit on it necessarily. I'm just trying to like give my perspective. So I've heard that. And then I have to deal with it occasionally, right? Because some clients have like domains and stuff. And I don't normally have like a crazy amount of issues, but every single time I go in there's like just some sort of issues. I'll give you literally this case. 2 nights ago, I tried to go on there and I can't even log in to the client's delegate access piece. Like I have access, full access, and every time I'm going in there, like nothing is loading. Okay. This is the thing is like we talk about and we give like WordPress like shit sometimes, or we're critiquing things about that. And then we deal with a company like GoDaddy, who from my understanding is a large corporation with a shit ton of money. And the stuff doesn't work when like a professional needs to do something with it. Like it literally wasn't loading. I'm trying to go into the domain. I click the manage domain thing, which the UI is a cluster, but like I click the manage domain thing and the stuff doesn't even load. Now, again, I looked into like, maybe like I have a extension that's messing with something. Maybe I have like all sorts of stuff. I tried it. Okay. I tried everything. I'm not like an idiot. Okay. I'm not like a beginner either. This is the other thing. I know I'm all over the place here, but and I'm not picking on this one specifically. I'm trying to give you like, I always do this. I try to like use one example and make it more macro. I am not a beginner. Can you imagine how bad this would be for a beginner? They wouldn't know what the hell they're doing. They'd be calling support. Like it's just a bad business practice to have the shit be confusing or not work. And I'm not saying it always needs to be perfect. I'm just saying this isn't the first time I've heard this. You know what I mean? So it's just confusing. The whole process is confusing to me as far as where we're at with that. So I try to go in there, I try to click manage the domain, and the stuff doesn't load. Like I can't even get to the point where you say like redirect the domain, forward the domain, whatever. So I forget about that until the next day, which if that was an actual situation and that was, urgent, it wasn't. But if it was urgent, now what am I doing? Am I contacting support? Like what? I don't know. I try to not contact support with every product because I don't want to bog them down. I know it's there for a reason, but I'm the type of person, and I know people that are the complete opposite, okay? I'm the type of person that I'm going to try this shit 10 different ways before I contact support. And I feel like that is the customer that you kind of want to have because you don't want to be flooded with stupid requests in your support. But there's a lot of people, especially when the platform is not either optimized or just is rough in certain ways. Like you're gonna get a ton of that. So I'm just thinking about all this, right? I can't click manage. I click it. Go to the next day. Next day I come in the same environment. It's not an extension issue. I hop in there. I'm able to get in there. I'm like, okay, that's super strange, but whatever. So I get in there, and then the way in which the redirection and everything like that works is you can connect the site to something else. It's not even really clear off the bat if it is using the website builder that GoDaddy has. That's in kind of a separate place. I think they've recently changed the UI again to like a GoDaddy Pro hub situation. So there's all sorts of that going on. And then you go in there and like somehow I disconnected it from the current site. Well, the first thing I did was I tried to forward it to the URL, the page that I wanted to go to. And for 12 hours, it was just offline. There was something going on there. All I did was I followed the exact tutorial that a beginner would. I put an HTTPS 301 permanent redirect to the thing. And for like 12 hours, that site was offline. Like you went to this secondary domain that I'm talking about, and it wouldn't redirect to the page that I wanted to. Again, it wasn't a big deal in my case, just based on my circumstances, but it was still like, what the hell? I thought DNS is a bitch sometimes, right? It's got to propagate. I'm like, I'll let it sit there. So none of that happened. It didn't work. Like, I don't know what the hell was going on. Then I go back in and I'm like, okay, let me just like basically rip out everything for the most part because I don't need this other website anymore. Let me rip out everything and then redirect it. Like rip out kind of the DNS. And I disconnected something and somehow I'm not in the DNS portion. I'm in like the redirect portion and I clicked the button and it took all of the goddamn DNS records out for the Office 365 stuff that still is needed on that domain. And I'm like, what the fuck? That is not how any other like good DNS situation setup I've ever dealt with. It doesn't, redirecting has nothing to like, I know it has something to do with DNS, but I'm saying like it doesn't like have anything inherently to do with like those records that you would think. Like if you're redirecting something, you're not even close to like the MX situation of what you're messing with, which I know I've done it before a long time ago, right? I've screwed up MX records. It's not fun, right? But I'm saying like that whole thing, the UX is it's remarkable. And I go back into DNS settings like I purposefully did not come over here to fuck with any of this stuff, and now my records are gone. Fortunately, huge up here. I'm not trying to just be all negative. There is a way that you can just go. It's like if you purchase the Office through there, Office 365, you click basically one button, it puts all the DNS settings back because it's like, hey, your emails aren't going to work. Luckily, it knew that and it put it all back. But I'm just saying that's rough. So then after all of that, I ripped out again like the forwarding things, the rules that I had on there or whatever, and then I put in the new forwarding rule, and eventually it ended up working. Still one problem. And I researched this and I saw things that I know would work, but still don't, it's not where it needs to be. When you want to redirect abc123.com to another URL, the problem that you're going to run into is abc123.com/contact/about, right? If it was a previous website, which in this case, that was the situation. Now, what happens in this setup that I've been talking about for the last 10 minutes is abc123.com does redirect to where I wanted to go. That's perfect. However, /contact/about, whatever, it gives a 404. Now, I know that there's ways to do that via like htaccess or whatever. It was built with Website Builder. I'm not going in and dicking around with whatever that is. And I don't even know if it like has specifically hosting or whatever, like kind of handled it, because it wasn't WordPress, it wasn't any of that. My point is this is so much more difficult than other platforms have made it. When I used to have Google domains and even like other things, like you could just say redirect like a wildcard redirect. Everything after that, redirect it. And I don't understand why that's not possible, at least in the current GoDaddy thing. So I'm done venting about that, bitching about that, whatever. All I'm saying is that it's crazy how like difficult that simple situation was. And I think about it as me and it's like, okay, I figured it out, whatever, it's fine. But everyone else is going to be so pissed off. Like so many beginners, because that's where that platform is marketed to, are going to be so pissed off about that situation. And then you have what I would classify as a lot of professionals that, I'm sure there's some that love it, but like a lot of professionals that get pissed like this and then they're just like annoyed by it. So I'm trying to look at the meta of that situation. I wish everybody a good, continued success and everything, but like I just don't know how to react to that. So I know we got some comments, so let's see. Bassam, you're right. The staff doesn't always load, or the stuff doesn't always, it's confusing. I don't understand. Yeah, please do talk to Courtney Robinson. She rocks. Sorry I had to drop off. Yeah, all good. Appreciate being here, Ann. Yeah, and I know Courtney does a fantastic job over there, and it's awesome that she's in the community. So I definitely want to talk more about it. I'm not trying, like I said, I'm not trying to like be completely shitty towards GoDaddy. I'm just trying to like understand all those things that I was talking about. Like why is it like that? Like what are we like? It's not like I'm trying to do something crazy. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's like a very regular thing. So I don't know. Could you not add Cloudflare name servers and then manage through CF? I mean, 100%. So that's what I did for the main site. And thinking about it, yeah, that's probably the way. I will just give you a bit more nuance to this certain situation. There is an IT provider that's in the mix as well. So I already had to tell them about the Cloudflare situation on the other domain that was in the network solutions area. So now I would have to like move this one over to Cloudflare as well. This website doesn't even have like a website built into it. So I mean, yeah, it definitely could. Cloudflare is 100% a viable option, but like for this level of simplicity, like the smallest thing that I was trying to do, I could have done that, but I don't see why I would have had to, because nobody's going to that website. It's just not anymore. They're just moving through it. So definitely a good suggestion there, Charlie. I just don't feel like it would have been necessary, but probably would have saved me some time and some energy possibly. I don't know. Often run into services that try to make everything easy by anticipating and thinking for you, and that ultimately makes everything so much more difficult once you stray away from their methods. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, pertaining to this situation, again, not trying to go super deep on shitting on GoDaddy, but they are the example here. Like, I don't even feel like they try to make it easy in this case. Like, it's just like it's marketed as easy. It's marketed as like, I feel like, to a beginner sense, and then they have the pro piece of it, I guess, now as well. They do have a lot of cool things, like a lot of there's certain ones that don't even have delegate access and all that, so that's cool, that concept. But yeah, it's just, there's like 17,000 buttons to click. You never know where you're kind of going, and I don't know. Really, more than anything, like I said, it's just for me. It's just a really cool and interesting case study into like how a large company operates. I think a lot of times I might have like a weird misconception about how good big companies actually are at like understanding their customers and providing good products, but really they're just good at selling shit. Like, that's really what it is. Like, at the end of the day, I'm not saying that's a gross overgeneralization, but I'm saying, and I'm not saying that GoDaddy doesn't have value. Obviously they provide value. They're a big company. But I'm saying, like, those little minutia things that like we take for granted, I feel like, at least myself, is like so simple and so easy, and like is probably like 95% of the people on their platform are going to have to do at some point, and it's not a revolutionary concept, and it's not easy. It's like it's a weird thing in my head that I just can't fully wrap my head around. GoDaddy definitely has issues and used to be even worse. They are also a great supporter of WP, have folks directly involved in sponsor events. It's frustrating how good and not they can be at the same time. Yeah. Yeah, again, kudos to everyone. Courtney, love everything everybody does. Not talking about anybody specifically. I'm just talking about the platform in general. And I know the devs that work on the platform are probably great people. I'm just going to assume all of that because I believe it to be reasonably true until proven otherwise. I'm just saying, like, again, it's a very interesting combination of thoughts that I have on all that, because it's just a wild situation. So pray for improvement. I often wonder how many support resources at a place like GoDaddy exist solely to help end users navigate the UI. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough thing too. Like, I mean, I literally watched the video and followed the exact steps, said the outcome was going to happen, and it didn't happen. And again, I'm not trying to be a complete reductionist here or whatever. Like, I understand the web is a very complex place, and there's no way you could create like resources that are so nuanced that they're going to work in every situation. I get all that. Maybe there's something really weird about that account that I was dealing with. Perhaps, but again, with my experience and knowledge, like, I couldn't see any of that. And again, I don't even know if I'm the main person dealing with, that with that product, that platform. So, like, the main demographic dealing with it. So it's just all very interesting. Did I miss what you were trying to do? I arrived late. What's up, Andrew? Thank you for being here. No, it's kind of just talking about GoDaddy. I was literally just trying to redirect and forward a domain to a new website. It was a website built with GoDaddy, website builder, and that website's no more, so I was just trying to redirect it, and I kind of just went on a preamble of like the 3 different times that I tried to do it. It was just overall frustrating. Not really trying to throw GoDaddy completely under the bus. You might think that. That's not really the case. I'm just trying to explain, like, on a macro level, like how do those things continue to get better? Like, why are they like that with large companies? And I would just love for that process to be easier, because I feel like a lot of people are doing that, and a lot of them aren't going to try like all of the different ways and debugging that like you or I or anybody on this would. There's a lot of people that are just like, I just want my website to work. So it's just an interesting conversation. WP Tuts, Paul, thank you for being here, brother. GoDaddy lost me as a customer when they started calling me. And when I put the phone down, they phoned me back and spent 10 minutes arguing with me. Yeah, I'm trying to think if they've ever, I don't know if I've ever actually been a customer. I think I bought maybe my first domain there. But other than that, I think I had hosting at name.com originally, and then I moved to Cloudways and then GridPane. So I don't think I ever really bought too much. But again, like I said, if you're doing agency work, you're doing work for other people, it is almost statistically impossible, I would say, that if you build more than like 20 websites, not one person is going to have some sort of GoDaddy product. I've already had it happen with at least 6 like people. So it's like you're going to get brought into there, you're going to get into that system. And again, I love experiencing different things. I like to try to rein things in because I want to try to be a little bit more buttoned up. Like I used to tell people go Google domains, and then we'll do, Cloudflare, we'll do this, whatever. Now it's like really the one that I've personally seen, like Pork Bun is pretty good. But for most like beginners, the other big one that I've seen is like Namecheap. There's a million others. I don't, I'm not affiliated really directly with any of them. But my thing is like just like one that is, you don't need something super crazy there. Like GoDaddy is actually extremely impressive in what they've done, like how wide I feel like they've gotten in all of the offerings. But it's like, again, please just let me redirect a domain easier. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. By customer, I mean for domains and never hosting. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I'd love to play devil's advocate here though, or just have or answer the question like who. I know there's obviously like a ton of people that use like GoDaddy shared hosting as an example, but like who could make an argument like as to who that is actually for? You know what I mean? Like obviously I think a lot of times I do a lot of introspection on these. I think a lot of times I do think like I think that everybody's building like multiple websites, which is not the case, right? We go to the WordPress meetups, which are great. We see people that are building just like one website for their business, and they're like trying to navigate WP, and you could write like 16 documentaries on like that, on like situations like that. Like it's just very interesting. But like who is that actually for? Like who is that like shared hosting at like a GoDaddy or any other one like actually like really benefiting? I think it's really just I feel like to me, could you actually could you like could there be an argument that shared hosting should be rebranded, at least said to be like entry level hosting? Like is that I don't even know. I don't, it's a weird situation, but yeah. Andrew Palmer. Let's see where we get here. Yeah, GoDaddy can be difficult if you don't use it regularly. I've had a bad experience. I've not had bad experience with them. I have a few clients who give me delegate access, and it's all good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just different. I mean, like I said, I think I said before you got in here, Andrew, like, I mean, I literally logged in, I had delegate access, I logged in, the thing wouldn't even load. Like, and again, I checked extensions, all that. The next day, the exact situation wasn't loading. Again, I understand the web, sometimes shit happens, totally get it. But just weird, the reliability piece of it seemed a little weird too, but I'm happy that other people have good experiences. I like that. I've had to use their support on behalf of clients. They are pretty helpful, but I wouldn't use them hosting and move domains to Pork Bun. Yeah, I've heard good things about Pork Bun. I've heard good things. I mean, maybe I've used GoDaddy support maybe once or twice too. I think their support is good. I hope their support's good because absolutely needs to be. Cheap asses on shared hosting. Pros for pro hosting, it's actually pretty good. Interesting. Okay, yeah. So I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's the other thing too. Is like, I mean, I know it's cheap and everything like that. I'm wondering like, is there validity to the idea of like saying shared hosting is like entry level hosting, and it should obviously maybe as a company you're not going to sell it like that. But like, if you ever say the word shared hosting and you're unbiased, like, should you always kind of like also say, hey, you're probably not gonna be on here forever because it doesn't scale well? Like, what's the limit? I literally didn't know any of these questions. The shit that I talk about is the stuff that I had to learn from, guys like Paul, guys like whoever, like just the stuff that like you would literally have no idea coming into this industry, and you're just like, yeah, I mean, shared host, like, and sometimes it's like we don't lie about it, but we're like not 100% honest about it. It's like shared hosting. I got like 5 people on my website at one time. I got one person on my website while I'm in the back end, and it useless. Like it's confusing. I don't understand. I don't like what is the reality of the situation, so we don't like, kind of tell these people, oh yeah, go grab this, and then it's like in 5 minutes you're going to be like, assuming you're trying to build up something and get people to your website, it's like in 5 minutes you're going to be like, oh, this sucks, what can I do? And then you'll lose business because people can't. It's very strange. Whole different topic in and of itself, but we should probably talk about that one day. Haven't seen tests in a while, but it feels worse, slower than other shared hosting I've tried. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have data here. I don't have data, so we're speculating to a certain degree. Completely agree. As the name change, entry level is a great name. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just the way that I've seen it. I mean, it was literally entry level for me. It's really good to get your feet wet and see how to build or like what hosting actually is. But it very quickly, if you want to do anything more than just like, if you want to have more than one person on your website, I'm maybe exaggerating there, but literally that was the type of experience for me. Like it was so slow to update everything. It was slow to do any content edits. Just because of the nature of that technology, like this situation of shared hosting. I'm not saying it should go away. I'm not saying nobody should ever have it, but you have to like go into that or at least be quickly understand that that's kind of I feel like the way it is, and everybody here knows that. It's just I feel like that's another situation that is interesting in our space. So yeah. All right. So let's dive into this here real quick. So we talked about GoDaddy again. I wish them the best. Got to talk to Courtney and everybody more about that. Like I said, no harm. I'm just giving my experience. A couple things here. This is so I talked about this a little bit earlier, and I like if you're not following me on Twitter. Sometimes I post funny things or insightful things. Maybe I don't know. Depends on who you are. What do you think? But this was the one recently that I thought was really interesting. That it got kind of like slightly picked up or whatever. I mean, by the algorithm. So it's got like 3,000 or some views or whatever. And it's always little shit like this. It's always like weird little insightful questions. I'm going to try to start posting them more often. Some of them are good. Some of them probably suck. But this question here, if you gave your thoughts on it, appreciate it. If you liked it, whatever, appreciate that. Like, is building WordPress websites easy? I have to give you the context on this, and then we can go through some of these and we can kind of talk about some different stuff and things like that, because there's a lot of different good ideas and thought processes and perspective on here. And we'll just kind of run through a couple things. So let's dive into that. Let me read a couple of these real quick. Brandon, unpopular opinion, but restrict number and types of plugins allowed on shared hosting. It gets a bad reputation from people trying to run LearnDash and Woo while importing 2K records. I mean, 100%. Are you saying do that? Because I think that that's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, we dive into the concept of like, should you like, how much are you letting them do anything anyway, right? Like install their own plugins and stuff like that. I mean, there's like, I haven't even heard that. We haven't even dove into that recently. I feel like it's always been like, don't touch it or edit the content. I mean, adding plugins and stuff. Now it's like they're actually editing like the technical, aspect of the website. Like I just saw somebody say today, like, what would you change about WordPress? And they were like plugin conflicts. I'm like, I haven't had a fucking plugin conflict in, I don't want to say years, but like nothing that I've built recently has had a plugin conflict because my stack is so tight, right? Like there's certain little tiny things here and there, but never something like that actually like destroys anything. But you could absolutely have that happen with one activation tap in the directory. So that's a whole nother conversation, but that's an important thing. I would 100%. But I mean, the one thing I would say there about that, Brendan, is that I don't know enough about WordPress.com, but I feel like isn't that kind of sort of what that is? Like where you can't like maybe it's different now or maybe it's different on different tiers, but like that concept is good and I don't disagree with it. And I feel like it just makes total sense, and maybe it's already in certain ones. Maybe not every platform, maybe like WordPress.com. I can't remember. I feel like it used to be like that. But regardless, I think that is a good strategy. But I also think that concept is bigger. Like it's a bigger conversation that actually goes beyond just the technical nature of the resources. It goes more towards like the actual business practice, so to speak, and like just making sure your life doesn't suck. I don't know. I have a client on unlimited Bluehost shared hosting. It's a nightmare, and I charge at least 3 hours for a 10-minute amend. That is how long it takes. Yeah, I mean, it's just everything is slower. It's crazy. It's wild. So I definitely I feel for you there. Hell yeah, Isaac. Fuck yeah, man. You got the hell yeah on the thing over here on this tweet. So yeah, so we got is building WordPress websites easy. We have a ton of great people here that have shared the perspective. We'll go through some of the cool ones here. Real quick, let me give you kind of the context that kind of inspired that, and it's related. It's not like a one-to-one, but it's interesting. I had a consultation type call with somebody that is outside of the WordPress space. They're in the marketing space, more so in like, we'll call it like video though, and they're trying to get more into digital. So I would say like video would be just like more like, video marketing. Digital is more like more holistic, okay? And it's niched, right? So it's niched to a particular industry and that type of thing. Dabbling with that, awesome. I love more people trying to do cool shit. Okay. The call was about WordPress. Because this individual doesn't really like have like a lot of like WordPress, so to speak, knowledge, a lot of marketing knowledge, but not specifically WordPress. And as we know, WordPress can be a little bit of a fucking like bunch of stuff going at you all at once. And there's like a million different ways to do everything. And if you're brand new to it, very powerful, but also very, very tough to navigate or do well. So we know that. And then, so the question becomes like at a high level is like, should we go Webflow for this like agency offering? Should we go a different platform? Should we go WordPress? And there's a lot of agencies that are actually doing this with WordPress, and they're doing it well, obviously. And I'm not talking about, I don't need to go super deep into this in this example. I feel like for you guys to understand what I'm talking about. When I say is building WordPress websites easy? Obviously, that's a super vague question. Okay, it's meant to be vague because I want the people to express their thoughts on it. I love asking vague questions because sometimes with certain things, because then it gives people the opportunity to like interpret the question and give their perspective on it. Specific questions have their own place, but like the vaguity, like it helps understand kind of like what the people's like quick reaction are, right? And the reason I asked it was because that is what I got out of the call that I had with that individual, because it was like, I was explaining WordPress. I was trying to be much more realistic than optimistic about what WordPress is. WordPress is a beast. It can be simplified. And I could like think of a strategy to deploy for like a digital niched agency. That the problem is though, this is where like I feel like a lot of times WordPress people, depending on your level of like business savvy or just business interaction, like how much you give a shit about business versus technical, this is where like it really breaks down for a lot of people. A lot of times they think that the technology is just going to be easy. Like it like that part is not important, or not that it's not important, but like the website isn't as important as like maybe the paid ads or like the other pieces. Maybe it's like a video offering. Maybe it's like a graphic design offering, whatever. And it's just like, what can we do for like the simplest minimum viable product of a website? The answer to that question is so goddamn vast. Like I could answer that a million different ways. Like I don't even, like it's a hard question to answer because it has so many answers, like viable answers. So like, in that specific conversation, I brought up another agency that was known between the two of us and was referenced, and I was like, well, the best I can do for you is I can tell you exactly how this other agency is doing it from a technical perspective. Okay, so I brought up the other agency, I brought up some case studies, and I was like, all right, they're using Avada, they're using WP Rocket, they're using Rank Math, they're using WP Engine for hosting, they're using this, whatever. Okay, and I'm like, I literally don't know what else to tell you, because if you go into a situation like that where you want to make money as a digital agency in a niched environment and you don't have the technical, this isn't a dig. I'm just saying if you objectively don't have the technical knowledge in that realm to build that, you are going to be so fucked when you get in there and you think, I can just spin up some hosting, I can throw a VOD on there, I can build a template, I can clone it, and I can do it. I'm not telling you not to do it, okay? I think I always lean a little bit more towards, I'm thinking of all the problems that could happen rather than all the opportunities and the pros. There's probably some good and bad in that line of thinking. But I just can't, like I'd rather go into a situation knowing, like thinking about how bad this could be rather than like how great it could be. And then I'll go in, I'll know the things to look out for, and then I'll just make sure that I'm kind of moving in that direction. So I don't know. It's a nuanced topic, but the reason I'm asking the question is because of that. And again, we can go through some of the things. I don't know if any of that kind of specifically made sense or resonated with any of you guys, but that is, I have this conversation pretty frequently with people outside of the WordPress realm. And it's difficult because I know what it can do and I know how to do it. But it's like, I've been here for a while, right? And you guys, a lot of you guys have been here longer than I have. It's like, what do we tell these people like that are newer and they want to spin stuff up and they think and then there's a secondary piece of this I'll touch on. I'll read the comments and we'll go back to the other stuff. We'll go back to the comments and stuff like that on the thing. The last piece that kind of ties it all together is this is a different way of thinking about all this other shit that we've been talking about for the last months. Okay, the difference here is that the people that don't know WordPress are thinking about WordPress in terms of the other shit. Let me explain what I mean. I asked the individual on the call, let me ask you a question. If I told you right now, let me preface real quick. The previous like websites and everything like that, the experience, we'll just say has been like Webflow, maybe other platforms too, but at least Webflow. Okay. So I said, let me ask you a question. If you wanted, if I told you right now you have to build a WordPress website, right? With the information that we have and maybe the stuff you can garnish online, what are you going to do? And off the bat, the first answer was they weren't going to do it. They would have like an assistant do it or whatever, which is I wish I delegated better. So props there. But my second thing is he was like, if I have to do it, then I'm probably going to create a WordPress account, somehow link that into hosting, and then go from there. And right there, I understood that that is a huge disconnect. And I'm not saying that content doesn't exist on the internet on how to start WordPress websites. Okay, like obviously, hopefully that would be the first thing. Google it, watch a WP Toots video, watch it, like something else, and figure that out. Okay, but I'm saying like the reaction, the instinctual reaction is I have to set up an account like I do with Webflow, with the Squarespace or whatever. And I mean, obviously you can go to WordPress.com and do that. But then and I kind of went into a little bit of riff, like difference between WordPress.com, .org, whatever. And I'm like, you are probably not going to be able to do this on WordPress.com the way that they want to do it. Maybe. I don't know. But I don't know. This is a huge, heady topic, which I love to discuss. But like, unfortunately, there's never like concise answers to any of this shit because there's just so much to it. But I'm just saying like that is what we're dealing with. I feel like in a lot of ways. And it's past the point of like, is it good, bad, indifferent, whatever. It is just the reality of the situation. The world is going like one way in one direction with a lot of those thought processes. And WordPress is like a different beast. And it's like, while we want it to be for everyone, and there's a lot of great things to that, there's also these preconceived like mentalities and like thought processes that we are literally completely going against because the other 95% of like those types of products are not doing the same way. Again, I'm not saying this isn't a better way. I'm not saying it's not like a good strategy. I'm not saying it all like fucking open source. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying like we have to be realistic with the reality of the situation. This is why I always bring up this rose-colored glasses and everything like that. It's like we just, I feel like so much of the mentality is like we're still living in the world where these things weren't more prevalent from an outsider's perspective. That's what I'm saying. Hopefully some of that made sense. Isaac here. Hot take. Webflow is reaching serious maturity CMS and scalability for long-term SEO and business goals. I don't know enough about Webflow's current situation. The only things that I would cite would be like those recent layoffs and stuff or whatever, that note that I didn't fully read. I don't know the context around that, so I'm not going to go deep on that. I'm just speculating. I don't know if that has anything to do with like their actual business trajectory, but that would be the one thing. But yeah, I mean, I've seen pieces of it. I know that a lot of people use it and build great stuff. So I don't know. That's just, I think we'd be silly to not continue to like be real with ourselves on those types of things. Palav, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Hey Mark, I'm facing an issue where I've added Fluent booking calendar event to free consultation page. The issue is now due to WP Rocket event calendar is not opening. I excluded the page from the URL Still no success. Okay, let me read that one more time. Facing an issue I had with Fluent booking calendar event. Okay, I think I tried that once. Free consultation page. The issue is now due to Rock. Calendar event is not opening. I'm going to say that's a pretty tough one to diagnose from the comment there, Palav. Maybe I don't know if you can. I can't. I don't think you can send a link in here. You can probably send a link or something if you like remove like the dot, like the .com portion or whatever. If you can do that, or just a little bit more context on that, it's I mean, I haven't used Rocket too much, and I used Fluent Booking. I've tried to use Fluent Booking Calendar. It's a whole nother topic. I want to use it because it's like basically a Calendly clone, but on like more, you know, obviously in WordPress. But send me a why don't you do this? Why don't we real quick here? I would like to look into that. Why don't you, if you have X, shoot me a message on there, like with a link or whatever, or more info, and we can kind of diagnose that. Yeah, or Fluent support. That's a great idea. D123. I will actually. That just made me remember something. Okay, when I tried that, I think maybe in that video that I talked about, if you saw that one, I have no idea, but I would potentially contact support, because if you're having that problem, somebody else is definitely having those problems. Those are not like rarely used plugins. I'm sure somebody else is using those two things. Here's the thing that I would say about Fluent. I'm not saying this is still like this. However, when I used it, I actually had a problem with grid pane, like the host, like the way that grid pane's security kind of is set up. And I'm not blaming it. It's just, this is one of those conflict things. There's a security situation there where I was trying to like hook in my Google account, do the Google auth, and it wouldn't let it for that sort of reason. So I do think that there's probably potentially like a known thing there, or like they might have a really good concept of that, unless it's some sort of like weird, just like WP Rocket setting. So yeah, definitely take a look at that. Brendan, appreciate you being here, brother. Go do some work. LOL. Okay. What else here? WP is easy. Okay, so let's just go back over here real quick, and we'll kind of slow down and wrap up here with this last one. Also, random thing. This fucking friend thing. This is a AI thing that you put around your neck, and then you have like a friend, and you go like talk to it. It'll text you and stuff. Crazy world we're living in. But props to this guy for doing that, because he's probably getting a ton of publicity. So yeah, it's a really interesting one. Let's just go back here and just read a couple of these, and then we'll sign off here probably pretty soon. Is building WordPress websites easy? Again, from the context that I had, also had a different tweet here that is web design a commodity in 2024. Very interesting topics that I'd love to dive into more and actually get more people's opinions on, because everybody has an interesting take on everything. So just real quick, when shouldn't it be? When should it be? Shouldn't it be? Who defines easy? It's a great point there from Courtney. I mean, I feel like this is a fair question, who defines easy. At the same time, though, there is a lot of, like, I mean, there's probably like a colloquial definition of easy, especially in a platform where we are trying to get beginners into it. And again, this is way more fucking like deeper than just the core thing. I'm not talking about Gutenberg at all here. I'm just talking about like the general situation of like WordPress versus the other thing. First part is extremely important though. When should it be? When shouldn't it be? I just think there's a lot of conversation to be had there, and I don't necessarily have those answers. Hell yeah, from Isaac. Matt says yes. Great answer there from Matt. Yes, it is develop using HTML and CSS. Need to be done from Lex here. PHP came. I think he had another one as well. Said yes, it is, and no, it isn't. I love that. That's what I'm talking about right there. Yes and no. Appreciate that. Let's just scroll through some of these. Brendan, it's easier than it has ever been. True. It's also not easy enough compared. Yes, I mean, it's a yes and a no. Obviously, it's a vague question. There are some people that are like staunch, like, you know, in one way or the other. Easy if you have the right tools. Not at all. That's funny. And let's see, we got any other ones here? Based on your goals, no and yes. Depends on, we know FSC is not beginner friendly at all. I feel like FSE is just different from the time I used it. I feel like I could understand the structure. It was just different than the way page builders do it, but I don't know. Searching for how to start a WP site is really a major part in all this. Tutorials can send new users on a very specific path and therefore cause confusion quickly when other tutorials are viewed. That is a really important point there, Peter, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, it's just tough because like I don't know how we are. I don't know how we go. Um, I don't know how we educate people without also like there you can't educate people on every situation in WordPress because there's a million of them. So you got to like lean into one, pick one, and then see what goes from there. It's like it's kind of a pros and cons there. It's tough. I don't know. Web design on any platform is not easy. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to those that think having a website is a human right. It's not. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I mean is like, I think we're at the point now where like it's kind of being commoditized and there's like borders maybe on like that whole human right like as an example, which is an interesting way to put it, like, but it's not really like we're just this idea of I put another tweet out. Where was it at? Did I tweet it? Yeah, this one. I wish this one would have got picked up. But it has gotten literally nothing. But I'll tweet it again at some point. What pros and cons have the web development industry experienced as a result of the immense encapsulation and abstraction created by no-code tools? Now, again, I probably could have worded that differently, but my concept there is like similar to what we're talking about here. Like, there's probably a ton of pros, but there's also probably a ton of cons. It's like, how do we balance that? How do we make sure that like we're not encapsulating to death, abstracting things away to death? Because we can't. I feel like we can't lose the sight of the underlying things that are going on in the space, in the technology of it. I don't know. It's like a weird spot that we're in. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to talk about here. Probably endless amounts of stuff. But I'm trying to see if there's anything else on my side here. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I think the verdict is it's easy and hard. There's a lot of differences in opinions and skill levels, and I don't know if we will ever find an actual answer. Andrew Palmer, WordPress is essentially a platform rock and a hard place as there's literally no onboarding in WordPress. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing I've heard people talk about too is, should we have an onboarding thing? I mean, I feel like there's an argument to be made for like very simple, basic onboarding of like just understanding what WordPress is, but it would pretty much start and stop there. Like it'd be like, it's a platform. You can do a bunch of shit on it. Have fun. Like it's like, I don't know how much more you could get. Like there is some things, and depending on how much more they put into it, there's a way to do that. But it's a wild place. Can't wait to see how it continues to evolve. And, hopefully we'll be here for, a part of it. And hopefully we'll contribute to the conversation in some form. But, yeah, guys, this has been great. I appreciate all the comments, all the thoughts, all the perspectives. I really appreciate it. I love hearing about it. And if you have any more, definitely let me know. Hit me up or every Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. We will be here. We'll be chatting about this and a bunch of other things. If you have any topics you want me to cover specifically, let me know. Like I said earlier, I've kind of been reevaluating my life, so to speak, in the WordPress realm. I want to make sure that I'm keeping adding value, but I want to like lean into things that I feel like I'm the best at or can provide the most value in. So still searching on that. Also, I know it's approaching rapidly. I don't know how we're already in August. I will be at WordCamp US in September. If you are there, I would love to see you. I'd love to meet you guys in person. It's going to be very surreal to meet all these people that I've just seen on a computer screen in real life. Super duper excited for that. So, I don't know, just a lot happening. If we had onboarding, the OS community would go mental and accuse Melonwig of taking over. Yeah. I don't know if there's a tidy way to do that. We'll see if anything happens. We'll see if anybody if we can have any influence on that or just like kind of like percolate ideas. or if something comes of that. But I'm super interested to see how it continues to evolve. So I'm gonna head out. I'm probably gonna go watch a little bit of the Tonic episode and maybe do some work. I don't know. Maybe do some work. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah. So sweet, awesome guys. Thank you so much.